we are retained for pre-construction for a beautiful project. And we have been in pre-construction for quite some time. And we get to what I assume is the final budget. And that final budget is more than they want to spend. And client tells us they're going to price it with some other builders. And I knew this going into it, over a year before this, because I just knew that was how, it was something he mentioned, but I was cocky or confident that we could prevent that if we did a really good job.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. And that's fine. Like, if that's the process, that's the process. And it's my job to make sure that they see the value. And of course, it unfolds the way we think it's going to unfold, and they come back and they're significantly less expensive than us.
Yeah.
And now I'm faced with, okay, well, we can get to a lesser expensive project, which we did. We were able to shave quite a bit off it because our expectations weren't aligned with them entirely. We were pricing it based on the architect, and the architect had very specific expectations around things like millwork. And they were like, we don't care about that stuff. Like, that's not a priority for us. And so we went through the exercise and presented them again, like, hey, this is, we can be closer to what you're intending to spend, but the client's still not sure. So I guess for what I want to talk about is when you are in situations with clients that go through this process, how are you navigating it? Because I think a lot of times I talk about how I navigate it, and for the most of the time I do a pretty good job, and I can get to the crux of, like, what's the budget? Okay, we can build for that budget. And here I am faced with one that I just can't seem to crack.
Yeah. Well, I can offer this, that it's not going to be the last time that you face this
Jeff.
scenario. Been there many times. And I will say that over the last 6 to 9 months, I have noticed a significant shift in the marketplace, in the
good or bad.
Well, it depends on what you consider good and bad. It's a tighter market, so there are fewer projects, there are more builders, and it's back to where it used to be pre-COVID, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In terms of how hard you have to work. Yeah. So, first of all, I would embrace that and figure out how you're going to posture yourself in that environment, and what then do your conversations look like? My conversations are completely different today than they were in, say, 2022 to 2023, where it was like fishing in the aquarium. There was just there were an overabundance of projects and not enough builders to fulfill it. So, and we face that scenario, where we're in pre-construction, where we're at a budget, and there's a little bit of an impasse, and client takes pause and says, well, maybe we should look in a different direction. And I think when you get to that point, you should let them go. You should just, because what are you going to change? Are you going to lower your, they're looking for, when they're at that level, they're looking for a 20 to 25% reduction. And as well as I, whatever scope that you've outlined, you might have 3 to 5 points to give away. You don't have 20, right? So they're either going to go out there and they're going to find someone that's willing to do it for less, or they're going to go out there and they're going to get educated that, maybe Nick does know what he's talking about. But either way, you don't have control over that outcome.
Yeah. It's there, like there's definitely some pride and ego that gets in my way where it's like I can win them over. I can prove that we can do this. And that's exactly it. We were looking for a 25% reduction and we did it. And, I pitched the conversation like, listen, these are ideas to get that 25%. These are not like, this isn't the area that we have to cut back on.
Yeah.
And of course, like I pick the areas that they don't want. They're like, well, we would never want to not do that.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes this fixated conversation of like, well, the only way you can build this for what we want is if you take all the stuff that we want out of it.
Right.
It's like, no. And I'm like, and I heard myself repeating, I'm like, this is such a failure. Like in terms of like the way I rate my conversation, I'm like, I pitched a path to get to where they wanted financially, where it's like, and I picked the wrong areas to compromise on.
Sure.
And, it's like, it is like, the other part of me is like, you know what, if they're going to bid it out and we're going to play this game, then I need to walk away. And ultimately this is why I'm late to the podcast, by the way. So it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
And ultimately I said like, guys, listen, I can build you a house for what your budget is. The budget I pitched to you was communicated to me that was more than $1 million more than you wanted to spend. Fine. We can build you a beautiful home for what you want to spend. What do you want to spend? And it becomes this like round and around game of like, well, I don't want to tell you what I want to spend because you're just going to cut it out of all the stuff I want. I'd rather us tell you what we want and then you price it competitively.
Right.
Like, well, we've priced what you want. And that was, come to find out, not what you wanted. So it's like, I just need to be able to reverse engineer this. And, and typically those conversations go really well where it's like, fine, like, we want to be at $2 million. Like that's that's our all in, like, can you get me there? It's like, well, that's my exercise. And I will come back and see, like, can we execute this project in a way that we feel comfortable with at a $2 million price tag? And that's like that. We're typically pretty successful at that. And today it just was not. It was like, well, we're not sure if that's how we want to go about it. And a big part of me is like, I just kind of want to walk away at this point.
Yeah.
Because but the other side of me is like, this is where I lose sleep. It's like, was it me? Did I fail at some point? Like what step did I take that was wrong? Like, how did I screw this up? And, let me see if I can fix it.